It's not beautiful. It's messy. It's murky. It's hard. You're distrustful. You're a mess. We're all a mess.
Yep. We're all a
You know.
mess, and that is so
Hmm.
important to say because I think also, I mean, I know social media can be a great and wonderful thing, but I do think that it is not true to life.
No.
And I think we all know that, but we still see things on there and we think, you know, that we don't realize how messy we all are and how we're all going through our own journeys and we're failing and, you know, messing up and we have to just in my opinion, I think in our little community we have here, we have to support each other. We're all going through the same stuff. So why is nobody talking about it? You know? It's not the
Yeah.
highlight reel on Instagram that matters. It's all the work you do, you know, that isn't on Instagram that matters. And that's what should be celebrated and talked about. The hard stuff, the murky stuff.
It's that's the fear, though, right? I'm going to be vulnerable. People are going to think less of me for saying the things that I did. And what we do is we create an illusion of just the parts that we want people to see. But the real truth of the matter is a great fear for most of us is to be vulnerable in any shape or form.
Yeah.
There's such there's so much information about it. So I started off this with something I don't like to share is that FBI test. And, it's probably going to get a bunch of hits now. That's good. Because I also remember who I was, because I'm not
Mhm.
changing it into something that wasn't there. So,
I feel the
um,
same way about my first video too.
yeah,
Because
your show's grown, right? This
yeah,
is
and I've
beautiful
grown.
now.
Yeah, I've
Hmm.
grown. And
Hmm.
it'll hopefully keep getting better. I wanted to go back to something though, because so you guys don't know this probably, but I took Brian Hill's deliberate coaching I think it was last summer.
Hmm.
And Brian is a very on the surface well put together guy, right? And lots of wisdom and experience to share with people and cares about his students, cares about your growth, and you can tell. And so I remember we had like a private conversation months later, and I can't remember why or what it was about, but you revealed to me that, and you've said this on my show before too, but for people that haven't heard it, that on the inside you're utter chaos. You said something like you're a very chaotic person. And I just like looked at him with like such confusion on my face. Do you remember that moment? I
Yeah.
just couldn't believe that underneath the surface there was so much chaos. And and now I can kind of see that a little bit, but what you see from people, you never know what's going on, inside their mind. You never know what's going on at home. You never know. And so that's another a reason to be kind to people because you just don't
Hmm.
know. And in this case, that's not really the point. But it is just interesting that you can have a gut feeling about people, but you never really know. And so, do you think it's interesting that I was so surprised by that? Or, I mean, have you been practicing this persona for so long, Brian? I mean, what is you I remember one time you said too about what you say to yourself every time when you get out of bed in the morning, which
Yeah.
was so vulnerable and so
Hmm.
powerful to hear because honestly, we all have that. And what was it? That nobody cares, I think was what it
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
Yep. Nobody cares. Well,
Which is a
here's the thing.
lie.
Yeah, that's true, right? And I changed it, and nobody cares but me and all the other people, and quite a few of my friends are on here watching, and you all care. So it changes such a negative thing into a positive. And I was surrounded by, heroes that I watched crash in martial arts. They became vulnerable. They became less than who they were. And I think, and anybody who has any bit of empathy can put themselves in another person's situation, but it's hard if we don't talk real. And for some of us, we're passionate human beings.
Mhm.
I am a passionate human being, and I would grind myself to dust without direction and structure. And I realized that early. So I had to go get some. And I would never take the chaos away because it's incredibly creative. But
Mhm.
man, it's a tsunami inside me. There's tidal waves. And what I
It's
tell
so
myself,
reassuring to hear you say
yeah,
that, Brian, because I feel the
yeah,
same way. Yeah.
I, I beat myself up. I don't think I'm good enough. And, we all suffer from imposter syndrome and things like that. But these are easily rectified. You just stay humble. You tell people the truth. And that was a moment of telling you the truth that
Mm-hmm.
matters. And I'm glad it was impactful. It's impactful for me to remember that, uh, yeah, it all looks real put together. But I think I had a class recently where I got a little irritated. I've got a pretty good temper. It doesn't show up very often, but it always comes from somebody being disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and coming from a combative environment, that was easily rectified in a gym,
Yeah.
but it's not on the range. And I'd ask everybody in the class to do something. And then I had to help somebody, and I'd ask them to get about their task. So then I had to help somebody, and I delayed the class, and they kind of mocked me about it. And it hit me. And I was mad, not at them. I was mad that they could control me because they didn't know better. But I allowed the mocking part of that to get to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, in order to change that whole process, I gathered them together and I said, listen, guys, you've angered me right now. And I said, you've hurt me. And I said, I ask you to do something for your own benefit. And instead of doing it, you decided to change it into something else. And I said, that's not what we're about here. And I said, if I set a poor example, I apologize. I'll expect you to do better as I expect myself to do better. And it's the first time I've ever had a group of adults come to me and say, I've never seen anger used constructively before.
Mm.
And it was a mind-opening moment for me. It's only taken 58 years to get to this point where I took my anger and I didn't destroy relationships and I didn't hurt somebody's feelings. Because, when you're an insightful person and you got a temper, you can cut people to the quick. And I've
Mm-hmm.
destroyed relationships like that. And you can't really come back. And it was the first time that I recognized the problem stemmed from me, not from them, and how I was reacting to it. And that it gave myself enough time to realize that I could weather this storm and I could be resilient to it and I could turn it into something creative instead of just doing something poorly. So
Oh, that
there's
is a
my,
great story.
yeah, it was really,
That's
I
hard
couldn't
though in the
believe,
moment. That's got to
oh
be
God.
hard. Yeah.
Mm,
Because you
yeah.
want to go into default mode, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So much more gratifying to yell. But
Short
that's the
term.
easy path, right?
Right.
And
It's the
what's the
easy path.
consequences? And
Right.
I'll tell you, good work is always hard up front.
Yep.
It's always hard up front, but now I
Mm-hmm.
have this story to share with people, and it's impacted a lot of people, and it's given me a
Mm-hmm.
certain control I never had.
Yeah. That's
So,
really good stuff. Thank you for sharing that, by the way.
sure.
That's awesome.